Yo, what is up guys? Welcome to another video on AJ's Thoughts on Movies. Today we're going to be continuing my Star Wars reviews, and we're going to be reviewing Empire Strikes Back. So the rebels are once again on a run from the Empire. This time, however, they're going to the planet Hoth, which is a snow planet, and it's really cool how they're able to achieve this effect mostly with stop motion, and then they actually had a painter do most of the backgrounds. They did go to Norway and film a lot of this stuff, but when we see the speeders versus the walkers and Luke and everything, that's all done with painted backgrounds. That's pretty cool. From the beginning of this movie, we can see that Luke is a lot more grown up, and we can see that Han and his relationship has developed over the years. I think it's about a 2-year gap in between A New Hope and Empire. Whereas Episode 4 was directed and created by George Lucas, Episode 5 is actually directed by Irvin Kershner. He does a fantastic job at really honing in on our characters and putting that humor into it, and also we get a love story, which I'll go into later. He said he wanted to do all those things. He wanted to make humor, but not with gimmicks or gags. He wanted to tell a love story, but not have a whole bunch of kissing on screen and making it like a romance. I really do love the first act of this movie. We're on Hoth. We're seeing Luke and the Wampa cut off his arm, and Luke is being told by Obi-Wan to go to the Dagobah system, and we hear Master Yoda's name for the first time. Then we really can see how much Han Solo has developed his character, and he's becoming more of a friend to Luke, and he saves his life again. Gross, putting him inside the Tauntaun. Like he said, it smells better on the outside. This movie is way faster paced than A New Hope. There's so much happening all the time. As soon as the rebels are discovered, the Empire tracks them down, and we get the Imperial walkers coming, we get the speeders and all the tow cable stuff. So it says in the beginning crawl that Darth Vader is obsessed with finding Luke because he's the one that destroyed the Death Star, and he felt the Force in the first movie, so he's obsessed with finding him because he's a real threat to the Empire. I love what this movie does with Darth Vader. We actually get to see his character and who he is and why he's such a badass, and he's just like taking out all of the admirals, and we really feel the fear that the Imperial officers feel for Darth Vader. We do get the start of a love story between Han Solo and Leia, as Han is trying to wear her down and she doesn't want anything to do with it, but she does have feelings for him, but she's not willing to say that she has feelings for him, and it's a really fun dynamic that we do. It really is like Kershner says, where it's a love story, but it's not like a romance, it's not gushy at all. So then after the rebels have escaped the Empire, they're getting off the planet, they're using the ion cannon so they're not detected. Han Solo, Leia, Chewbacca, and C-3PO get out on the Millennium Falcon, which the Falcon is a really cool way of not letting our heroes do exactly what they want when they want. Luke, however, does not regroup with the others and decides to go to the Dagobah system, like Obi-Wan says, and to try and find Master Yoda. In his attempt to land, however, he ends up crashing his X-Wing into a swamp, and then they get trapped, and R2 gets eaten by a slug thing and gets spitting out, and they finally meet our little puppet Yoda. I think this is so cool. Frank Oz doing such a good job at making Yoda come to life through a puppet, and there's like 2 other guys with him moving his ears, moving his eyes. This is really high-tech stuff, especially back in the day, but I think even now it still holds up. Master Yoda's really acting kind of goofy and old, and like Luke's not having any of it. He doesn't have any patience, but finally Master Yoda reveals himself. We can hear Ben in the background talking. I love that they just keep Ben Kenobi in it. Even though he's dead, we get to see his spirit ghost. We get to hear his voice. I think it's such a clever way of killing off his character, but still using Alec Guinness to his full potential. Meanwhile, our heroes on the Millennium Falcon have gone into an asteroid field, and we get the odds.
Sir, the possibility of successfully navigating an asteroid field is approximately 3,720 to 1.
Never tell me the odds.
They end up hiding in one of the caves on the asteroid, only to find out that it's not a cave. There's like a little puppet slug thing that tries to eat them. Then after Han Solo does some awesome flying and some maneuvers to trick the Empire, and they actually just land on one of their ships. I guess they don't have like sonar or anything to detect where they are. They decide to go see Lando Calrissian in the Bespin system. I think the idea of a city in the clouds is so beautiful, and it really is kind of like an escape from the Empire, both physically and mentally, where they don't have any worries because they're so little and nobody really knows about them. They did a good job at making this place feel like paradise. Darth Vader gets a little impatient, and so he starts to hire bounty hunters to track down the Millennium Falcon so that they can get Luke Skywalker. We're introduced to the Emperor for the first time, and we see that Darth Vader actually isn't the evil mastermind behind the Empire, but the Emperor is his boss, is his master. We see him kneel, and it's like, where did that come from? We haven't seen that before. Unless you watch the prequels first, like I did, and then it all makes sense. And then Darth Vader and the Emperor decide to bring Luke into the fold, try and turn him to the dark side. As we cut back to Luke and Master Yoda, we're seeing Luke start his Jedi training. We're seeing the physicality of it, and we're seeing the mentality of it, where he is being trained with Master Yoda on his back, who probably weighs about 50 to 60 pounds, and he's just climbing the ropes, doing flips, running through the forest that's like humid as all get out. At the same time, Master Yoda is teaching Luke how to use the Force, how to sense the dark side. Then Luke gets his first encounter with the dark side, the first real encounter. He goes into a cave, and the dark side of the Force tempts him. He sees Darth Vader. And they do a really good job at making you know that this is a vision by the music and the foggy camera. Luke is not a Jedi yet. He's impatient, he's arrogant, he's prideful, but he disobeys Master Yoda, brings his lightsaber, he fights Darth Vader, cuts off his head, and it's so cool. When the head explodes, we see a little version of Luke in the helmet, trying to signify that really he's fighting himself. He's fighting his confliction. He's fighting his own feelings. And that's the path to becoming a Jedi. After his ordeal in the cave, he then gets some training from Master Yoda of how to levitate rocks and how to levitate R2. And he's doing it. He's succeeding. Then doubt slips into his mind as the X-Wing is sinking into the water, and he thinks he'll never get off this planet again. Another symbol of Master Yoda being correct in that when he said that Luke was always looking off to the future, never concentrating on the here and the now. Something that Qui-Gon actually says to Obi-Wan in The Phantom Menace. Master Yoda then teaches us about the Force once again, and it's super cool how Luke is able to attempt to lift the X-Wing. He's getting it, and then we see doubt fall into his mind once again, and he fails. He goes off into the corner to pout a little bit, and then Yoda proves that he really is the master of the Jedi, master of the Force. Yoda lifts the X-Wing out of the water, and the look on Luke's face is just priceless. He doesn't believe it. He even touches it like 3 or 4 times to make sure that it's actually in front of him. So Han, Leia, Chewie, and C-3PO land on Bespin, and we get to meet Lando Calrissian, and I think he's such a cool addition to the team. I think he tries to be like a Han Solo 2.0. He's also suave and good looking, and he flirts with Leia, and then we get that back and forth of who Leia's gonna choose. Then Lando reveals that he betrayed them, that the Empire is there, and they invite him to dinner. Darth Vader says, "We'd be honored if you would join us," and Han just straight up shoots him. He shot first again. They all sit down for dinner, and we cut back to Luke. So Luke is again training, trying to prove to himself and to Master Yoda that he can get it right. He's lifting more rocks, he's lifting R2, he's using the Force, and Master Yoda says, through the Force we can see things, the past, the future, things that are about to happen. And so he sees Leia and Han in pain, and they're dying. Master Yoda says he just witnessed the future. And Luke is conflicted once again whether to go save his friends or to listen to Master Yoda, who says he's not ready to face Darth Vader and to face the dark side. We then get another look at Force Ghost Obi-Wan, as he too is telling Luke not to go. He's not ready. He's going to fail. Meanwhile, Han and Leia are trapped. Han is being tortured, and he's not even giving any questions while he's being tortured. He's just being tortured so that Luke can feel him in pain, and Darth Vader knows that. Luke ultimately decides to leave Dagobah, stop his Jedi training, and go face Vader to try and save his friends. In order to get Luke to go to the Emperor willingly, they decide to try and freeze him in carbonite, but before doing so, they have to test it and make sure it works, so they do it on Han Solo. So for this scene between Leia and Han, they ran this take over and over and over again, where she says, I love you, and he says, I love you too. And it just wasn't working. Irvin wasn't liking it. Harrison Ford wasn't liking it. So right before they were about to take another take, right before he said action, Irvin Kershner just looked at Harrison Ford and just says, do whatever you want. Let's roll with it. And so they got the take. Leia says, I love you, and Han says, I know. Director said that's good enough, and Harrison Ford thought that that's really what Han Solo would say. And I agree. The way that the movie was playing out, Han Solo wouldn't turn into a gushy mess and say, I love you too. He would have played it cool the whole time. That's his character. Luke then lands on Bespin, and we get the climactic battle scene between Luke and Darth Vader. And already this is a lot more raw, it's a lot more skilled than the fight between Ben and Darth Vader. Darth Vader knows at this point that he's better than Luke. Luke isn't a Jedi yet. And he also has a trump card up his sleeve. All the little dialogue that Darth Vader says to try and get in Luke's head and trying to succumb him to the dark side. For instance, he says, you're controlling your fear, but now release your hatred. Only your anger can destroy me. It's fantastic. And we see later on in other movies that that's the tactic that the Emperor will use on Luke. And it's the same tactics that Count Dooku tried to use. So Luke is just getting his butt handed to him. He is getting destroyed. Darth Vader is using the Force and throwing objects at him. He's stronger than him with his cybernetic limbs. He's stronger in the Force, and he's trying to seduce him, so Luke's conflicted in his mind. He's hurt physically. Luke is losing outright. And this is exactly what Master Yoda and Obi-Wan warned him about. And that's probably going on in his mind too. What would have happened if I stayed? As he's crawling away and desperately trying to live, Darth Vader is still taunting him. And then we get the big reveal. Darth Vader is Anakin Skywalker, Luke Skywalker's father. When they were filming this movie, this secret had a lid on it tight. Only Mark Hamill knew, the director knew, and George Lucas knew. This was a big reveal to everyone. Again, unless you watch the prequels. So Luke is dangling by his legs off of the Cloud City itself, and we get a little cliffhanger in that Luke and Leia have this connection. Luke says, Leia, hear me. Leia hears him, and they go back. She's in the Millennium Falcon, and they go back to get him. They find him, and is exactly where she feels. She's got some power too. And I love that now that we, the audience, know that Darth Vader is his father, and he's looking at him as a son, and he calls him son over and over again. When the Millennium Falcon is finally fixed, and the Lightspeed hyperdrive is fixed, and they go into Lightspeed and escape, you can see that sadness on Darth Vader, where everyone's like, okay, who's he gonna kill next? Darth Vader just looks down and walks away. It really does feel like Darth Vader is this tortured soul on the inside. So Luke gets a new robotic hand, Leia's there with him. Meanwhile, Lando and Chewie are going back to Tatooine to try and rescue Han Solo. And that's where our next movie will pick up, and that's where this one leaves off. A cliffhanger. George Lucas said many times that if Empire Strikes Back was not a success, he would not be able to finish telling his story, and that it was a much bigger deal than A New Hope ever was. And I can say without a doubt that not only is this one not as good, I would say it's better. There's so much action in this that keeps you engaged. The love story between Han and Leia is very believable, and it's not in your face, and Irvin Kershner does a really good job at introducing humor into Star Wars without making it like a gag, Jar Jar, and making it like stupid. We're introduced to the Emperor for the first time. We're seeing the Force used in ways we haven't seen it before or imagined it could be used. The lightsaber fight is so much more raw and appealing. Whereas the first movie was really going from Tatooine to the Death Star to a space battle, this one goes from Hoth to Dagobah to Bespin to an asteroid field, and we get so many more sets, and we get to explore the Empire more, as we're seeing Star Destroyers are not as big as they seem when you see Darth Vader's lead flagship. And altogether, I feel like we get to know our characters more in this movie as we're developing who Luke is, who he's becoming, Han Solo becoming a hero, not just the scoundrel we all thought he was. And out of all the Star Wars movies, I feel like this one, Empire Strikes Back, does the best job at exploring who Darth Vader is. In Revenge of the Sith, we got to see the beginning of Darth Vader, and then in A New Hope, we get little snippets of who he is and little scenes of him being the bad guy. In this, he's in charge of everything. He's going to Hoth himself, he's communicating with the Emperor, he's showing that he's a father. Honestly, I feel like this is the most well-made out of all the Star Wars films. It explores our characters the best, and it's got some of the best action. And for me, this is one of the best Star Wars movies ever made, if not one of the greatest films ever made. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you liked the video, go ahead and drop a thumbs up down below. Please comment on anything you want to see in the future. If you guys have any movies you want me to review, or if you have any different opinions about this movie, let me know down below. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel by hitting that little clapper if you want to see some more. But I'll see you guys in the next video. Alright, see you guys.